Howdy, and welcome to the Lost Rider podcast. It's an honor and privilege to address you in the capacity of an interviewer, reporter, and media member. Too many modern media outlets have forgone the integrity and responsibility required of credible information sources. What you will receive here are straightforward discussions with legislators, agency leaders, biologists, engineers, doctors, and countless other experts that have the answers to questions often circulated as kitchen table issues. The title Lost Rider may be thought of literally as well as in the metaphorical sense. While there has been the instance that I was momentarily a little turned around at night in a wilderness area, the idea of being a lost rider in life, well, that fits most folks at some time. These renderings are coming to you in the form of the 25-year-old radio program, The News from the Camp House. It still airs every Saturday morning at 6:30 a.m. Central Time on KULM 98.3 FM out of Columbus, Texas. The original intent was to relate outdoor topics to the general public. Immediately, it was found that all issues are relatable to the outdoors and that people are people. They all play a role and they all have a vested interest. It's this program's desire to answer common questions about how the world works, how it will operate in the future, and what's the holdup? So please listen, enjoy, and never hesitate to contact us with more questions and feedback. Good morning and welcome to this weekend's edition, News from the Camp House. This weekend's edition is also brought to us by the Shaw's Bend Social Club, country club folks who don't have a country club. All right, we're getting an update this morning from Nueces River Authority. Mr. John Byrum, he's the executive director of Nueces River Authority, is also, the update is about the Seawater Desal plant down at Harbor Island, that's Port Aransas. And, there's been a lot of conjecture, been a lot of talk, and we're getting an update. Mr. Byrum, how you doing this morning?
Doing well, Herman. Thanks for having us on again. We appreciate this opportunity.
Well, everybody needs it. Everybody needs an update, know where we're at. Tell me how's that going?
We're excited. We have just received notice about 3 weeks ago from the Texas Water Development Board that we'll be getting a grant so that we can start the engineering on the project, what we're calling phase 1 of the project. We have done a little bit of the pre-developmental engineering up to this point, and we need to refine that some, just kind of give you an idea. We currently have a tunnel coming under Redfish Bay from Harbor Island into the mainland there in Aransas Pass, and it's showing that tunnel is about 80 feet below the surface. We're wanting to shallow that up a little bit, so we're going to do some more geotechnical work in the area and take a look to see if we can go back up to about 40 feet or so, which is what we're going to do under the Gulf with our brine and our diversion line. So we're going to get that engineering started and then work on the pump station engineering some and the conveyance engineering to get water up into San Patricio County in the Coastal Bend area where they really need water bad.
All right, let's translate that just a little bit. So the discharge, the intake and discharge is going to be in a pipeline 40 feet below the floor of the Gulf.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That is exactly what we were planning, and that engineering will be taking place simultaneously with the discharge, the potable water, the clean water discharge line up to San Pat County. All that'll be working at the same time.
Okay. What are you hearing? What's the public discourse down there?
We've got some distractors. We've got some people that don't want the project, and they're very vocal about it. It's been hard to convey the message in a straight line where people aren't confused with those distractors that are what I'm saying not carrying the full message. And yeah, it's been a little confusing for folks, but here's the bottom line. This Friday, I've got an agenda put together for the board of directors meeting, and I will be asking the board of directors to approve our development partner. And that is the person, this is always put together in a public-private manner,
Okay.
where the private partners would develop the desal project, the plant itself,
Okay.
the seawater desal treatment plant. They will finance, design, and operate that facility. And we have proposed to the board that they sign a pre-development agreement with IDE, and they have formed a subsidiary, which is called the Harbor Island Desal Partners. And these people have massive experience. They have over 60 years experience in the seawater desal venue, and they have also built over 400 plants around the globe. So they know what they're doing when it comes to seawater desal. And they treat about 10.5 billion gallons of drinking water a day around the world. And we are excited that they have submitted to work with us, and we look forward to working. The board's decision hopefully will be to work with them, and we look forward to that if that indeed takes place this Friday.
All right, I'll translate again. You've got companies from the Middle East that are helping you build this.
We've got companies that are based in the Middle East, but they have American branches, and we're dealing with their American branch based out of New York City.
Okay, all right. The detractors, their main thing is worried about discharge?
There has been some that was worried about that. There's just some down there that don't want to pay for the price of water. What they feel like is that this desal water is being developed solely for industry. And that's just not true.
Okay.
What we're doing, we have like 1.5 million gallons a day out of this 100 million gallons going to 2 small industrial customers, but the rest of it is purely for municipal water users.
All right, let's wait. Let's back up here just a little bit. I think in our first interview we talked about most of this would be industrial use. But since that time, the data center controversy has come up, and that's what, I'll bet you dollar to donuts, that's what people are concerned about, that there's going to be this big project. And whatever it is, it's going to take the pressure off of the water that's being used for industry and municipal currently, correct?
That is totally right, Herman. And the more water we take out of the big pond, the Gulf of America,
Yep.
and distribute that up into the basin, the more return flows actually come out and enter the streams within the Nueces Basin, the Nueces River, the Fierro River, the Atascosa River. Those actually receive a benefit from this too, because there will be added stream flows returning to the basin. So it's not only going to take the pressure off the lakes and the current aquifers up in the area. Some of that pressure will be relieved, but it will certainly help with return flows in the streams.
All right, there's got to be some kind of way, some kind of consideration that we need to get this word to the public. Just having these little old hearings, I don't know if you get enough people to those things. it's like you almost got to have some type of a campaign to make people pay attention and understand how stuff works.
You're exactly right. And it's difficult to put something together that will be printed in the exact manner and exact format in which you have it drafted, So we're working on those ideas, and I think the overwhelming majority of the people realize what we're doing and realize that the project's beneficial for the area. It's those few detractors that are, have the vocal voices, and they sometimes print portions of what they want to print, and it
take it
sticks to the wall.
Take it out of context.
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah, well, that's not everybody's been watching this for 30 years the way we have here on the radio. We've absolutely been talking about this since this show started back in 2000, and it was all too expensive to even think about. But okay, everybody's happy right now with the deep water intake and discharge?
We have not heard but just one or two complaints about that, and the majority of the complaints that were at the hearing held by the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality dealt with the frequency of reporting. The TCEQ permit only required an annual report from us to them, telling them what the discharge compliance was. So now we have increased that to monthly reporting, and we will put that on a website where people can go and visit that website. It's accessible by the public. Visit that website, actually view the compliance measures that are and the testing that's being taken each month, and look at that and respond as and see if that it is in compliance with the permit. That's the main thing we're concerned with.
Well, it's public access. Anything the public wants to know about what you're doing and how it turns out, it will be on the internet. They can look at it. There it is, correct?
That is correct. We want transparency all the way through.
All right. I'll tell you what, let's take a quick break and thank the folks who let us come on here every Saturday morning. We'll be right back. Thank goodness for all the great sponsors we have here at News from the Camp House. H-E-B Food Stores. That's Stephen Tice at H-E-B. He helps me. He helps the community. He's a great man. I'm so thankful H-E-B loosened him up, lets him go around and sponsor a few things. H-E-B's got all your food needs. It's the greatest food store we got here in Columbus. Thank goodness for H-E-B. First State Bank. You go over to the First State Bank, they'll take care of all your loans, all your deposits, your savings, anything you need. Bunch of great hometown people over there. You got Celia Tobias, John Pollock. Everybody over there is looking out for you. Miss Barbara Barta. It's a great bunch of folks at the First State Bank is also sponsoring News from the Camp House. First State Bank takes care of all my business. Baumgart Agency, Susan Baumgart at the Baumgart Agencies, her and Germania. She told me to plug Germania. Germania is an insurance that she likes to everybody to know about. The Baumgart Agencies. Miss Susan and I are classmates, been classmates. She got me out of high school, sat right beside her, put us in alphabetical order where I could copy. And Susan Baumgart over at the Baumgart Agency, taking care of all your insurance needs. Lyco Realty, one of the original sponsors of News from the Camp House. Lyco Realty, the oldest real estate company in the county, and for the last 3 years voted the favorite realtor in the county. Lyco Realty, that's Miss Kimberly Johnson, that's Crockett's granddaughter. More kinfolks and classmates and great people from Colorado County. People from Colorado County helping people from Colorado County. That's great. Oh, thank goodness for all these wonderful people come to me want to be sponsors for News from the Camp House. Good morning and welcome to the second half of this week's News from the Camp House. This also comes out now on the LostRiderPodcast.com. So you can go look at any of these programs that we've done in the last year and a half or so, and they will be on the LostRiderPodcast.com if you want reference to some of these interviews from the past. And okay, one of the big things, and we were alluding to this in the first half, is public trust. And that's where anybody in the field of public service is responsible for public trust, whether it's a state senator, whether it's executive director of a river authority, whether it's TCEQ, whoever it is responsible for public trust. And, right now, public trust, my outlook on that is at an all-time low. And it's you can blame it on COVID, you can blame it on, whoever you want to blame it on, but we got to do something to get good information out there so the public trusts people. And, am I not correct on that general idea?
Yes, it has gotten really difficult to get the full story across in an accurate format that's transparent and remains transparent as it's being published. Yes.
All right. Now, part of my problem here where I'm sitting doing what I do is, okay, what do? I've got the radio deal here. I try to get information out to people. The other thing is I'm chairman of the Texas Outdoor Writers Association. I try to get, other outdoor writers who I feel are responsible for this type of natural resource reporting to do it. And let's look at what we have. We've got 5 state agencies that have conservation programs. I've had 4 of those agencies at our conferences. I can't even get an interview out of TCEQ. They either don't return my calls, or when I do talk to them, little communications director lady says, this information is too technical to do an interview. And I asked her, I said, is it too technical for you to explain or too technical for me to understand? Because I'm pretty well betting I can understand it and I can translate it to my listeners. And, I didn't get an answer on that. At the same time, you look at the Texas Gulf Coast, it is completely covered with refineries and chemical companies. You got good actors, you got bad actors. When you got TCEQ that won't even give you an interview to talk about this stuff, it makes it tough when you're a new kid on the block with a desal plant that we've been needing for 30 years, but people are worried about it. They're worried about the bays and estuaries. They're worried about their fishing. Meanwhile, they're drinking recycled water in town. None of that makes sense, but it's just the information that people get. So, bless y'all's heart for trying to be transparent on the internet. But, we've got, when it comes to public trust, we've got to crack that egg on TCEQ and again, bless your heart and bless Ken Britton over at Corpus Christi. Everybody talks to me over there. Everybody tries to tell me what I think is pretty much up front and straight. But there's some other ones here really dragging their feet. Where we're talking about the legislature or state or TCEQ, that's where public trust starts suffering.
We've got a lot of smart people at the TCEQ, a lot of good, hardworking, smart people that run that place. And I guess from what I'm hearing you say is they're having trouble trying to convey their message, and convey what they're doing. But I will say this for TCEQ, they do a really good job, Herman, in what they're charged to do. Mm-hmm. And, there are some violators, but if you look at their monthly agendas, it is full of fines that they're assessing or concerns that they have with certain industries or certain companies that are discharging that maybe didn't quite make the parameters for a given month. And they're pretty rough on us. And you know what? I think that's what it takes to make a good regulatory agency, is for them to be fair and impartial all the way through, And unfortunately, I guess from what I'm hearing you say, they don't have the great PR that they need, to tell the story of what they do. But
Right.
From my perspective, they do a great job in what they're tasked.
Well, they would have to. I would think they would have to. And I pointed this out the whole time I've had this. I pointed it out. You can go to Port Aransas. You can drive right through a refinery, and on the back side of it's National Wildlife Refuge, where you can catch redfish, trout, go duck hunting, do all that. It's clean water 100 yards behind the refinery. So I said, somebody's doing something right. But if they had enough sense to talk about it and show it to the public, they would. This public trust, you wouldn't have problems with detractors and everything else with, trying to implement technology in the future.
Well, I agree with that. We probably all need to do a better job in telling the story and keeping our story in front of the general public, so that transparency radiates just like the negative.
And I would also put this on the state senators and the representatives in these different places to stand up and show that, and when they go to a deal, and they start talking about, well, we're not going to let boys in the girls' restrooms. That carries about as much weight as chasing the coons out of your attic and plugging the hole. That takes no brains at all. What takes a little bit of brains is going, hey, look, we got this technology. We're going to solve Texas water problems, and we're going to show you how we're going to do it. That's what the public needs. Not this dumb stuff.
I agree. And from my perspective, that's going on. I mean, I've got to be in a meeting in Wessico of the House Natural Resources Committee meeting.
Okay.
It's a preliminary hearing, and I'm going down for that. And that's where those kind of things take place. You've got state representatives. I know the guys from our area, Todd Hunter, there's just a lot of them, but we work a whole lot with Chairman Hunter out of the Corpus Christi area. Those people are really smart people, and they do a great job of doing just what you're talking about, and trying to grow the water industry and trying to make sure that Texas has enough water supply to meet the growing demand. Mm-hmm. Apparently that is just not radiating to the general public, though.
Well, say like for instance, we had a conversation, an interview one day, and we were talking about the South Texas Water Authority and them wanting to put in a desal plant on a brackish aquifer in Kingsville, and everybody down there was worried about Baffin Bay because their first inclination was to put it in a treat it and put it back in the creek and let it run down to Baffin Bay. Everybody's scared about Baffin Bay. Everybody was saying, it's going to be too salty. You can't do that to Baffin Bay. And then turned around and Parks and Wildlife said it. Different ones said it. And then I got to the CCA and they said, we're scared it's going to be too fresh. And I'm like, holy mackerel, you just do, and you can go back and look at the tapes, and that's exactly what happened. And I'm going, the public is not getting the story. And I know we've talked before that you can treat this water and make it be whatever it needs to be when you put it back in the bay and let it run back to the bay. You can make that water be whatever it be, but you got to have the public trust that will happen and that the oversight is there. And for that, you have to have TCEQ come out and talk to you, and they ain't doing it.
I would agree that was a kind of a botched program there on that return to Baffin Bay, that brackish water discharge. And, that's a hypersaline body of water anyway, Baffin Bay is. It's one that's in peril. It's impacted by heavy nutrient loading and those kind of things. And it just wasn't going to survive if that would have taken place. I would agree. finally, but the good news is that it did prevail. The objections to that did prevail, and that is not being allowed. So good on the public for getting out and making sure that their voices were heard on that thing, because they did defeat that proposal.
All right, but now what we're talking about is if they could have made that water be just whatever the science says it needs to be, if they could have treated it and let it run back to Baffin Bay, you wouldn't have had a problem. Now what they decided, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, they decided to put this down reinjection wells. Okay, so what happens when you put it down reinjection wells forever and ever? You go out to the Permian Basin and look at these orphan wells and look at these places where some of this frack water's coming back out of the ground. That's not the answer. You got to be able to treat it and do something with it besides just pump it back in the ground.
I agree. And there are people that have that type of technology that can take that and use the brine and the minerals and some of the things in that brine for good industrial purposes, and give you clean water.
And they did it. They did that at the Brine Mound in 1984. They took the bromides and the chlorides out of that discharge when they created the Brine Mound Strategic Oil Reserve. And I mean, they've been doing it since 1984. So we've got the technology to do it.
It's all a matter of a dollar. I mean, how much money are people willing to spend to treat water to drinkable form?
Okay.
And we are there. We are at that brink right now where water in the future is going to cost a great deal more than it's costing today.
All right, but it's going to be there. That's the point.
Amen.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. Okay. I'll tell you what. We could do this all morning. I think we got some of our points out. So I appreciate you being with us again.
Great conversation, Herman. Thank you for asking us, and we'll look forward to doing it one more time.
You bet.
In the future.
Well, we'll do it again, and as this project progresses, and hopefully, everything goes smooth, and we can look forward to a new source of fresh water down there around Corpus.
It's coming. Thank you, sir.
All right. Hang on just a second. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this weekend's edition, News from the Camp House. Hope you learned something. And now y'all go out. This weekend's edition is also brought to us by Shaw's Bend Country Club. Country club folks who don't have a country club. Now, go out, have a fun weekend, be safe, and y'all just remember pretty much any day is sure a good day to be out in the woods.